Hey everybody, this is Scott Cantrell. I'm the Communications Director for Livable Buckhead, and I'm out on PATH400 on this beautiful spring day, and I have Miss Kim Estes with us, who is our Development Director. Kim, why are we out here today?
Well, it's a great way to get to work, especially if you want to take MARTA and you live on the north side of Buckhead. Given all the traffic problems we're having these days, you do want an option. So I wanted to share a little bit about the PATH400 option for commuting to work.
Awesome. Yeah. So where have we been already?
Well, we start at Wyuka. That's the beginning of the north segment right now. So we have a full 1.2 miles to help you get on a path and go over to MARTA or into the commercial core of Buckhead.
Awesome. So probably took us, what, about 25, maybe like 20 minutes to get here at this point?
By my watch, it was a little bit more than that, but
okay.
It just depends because of the hills. I mean, obviously, I'm wearing taller shoes than you are, so it may have taken me just a little bit longer.
A little bit of a difference in footwear, but you know.
But the whole idea is that it may take you 25 or 30 minutes, but it's 25 or 30 minutes that everybody isn't in traffic. So that's why I like it. And then remember, we saw cardinals along the way, and some things are coming to bloom now. So
it's very pretty out here, and it's gorgeous weather.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's a little bit cool, which is great. Yes. That's what you want if you're going to walk.
Exactly. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead. We are at the Lenox Road intersection at 400, where PATH400 then goes right beside Lenox Road. So we are actually going to walk over to the train station to show you what an easy walk it is. You ready?
Yep, ready.
We're not skipping. So, give everybody a little bit of a background about PATH400 in case they may not know exactly what it is or where it came from.
So the beauty of PATH400 is that it's built on the right-of-way of Georgia 400. So one of the things that you see as you're walking is all of the traffic below you as people who are perhaps have your same commute going from one end of town to the other or into downtown are trying to do it by driving. And at some points, when you're doing that in heavy traffic, which isn't necessarily at this moment, you will be walking faster than their cars are moving on the highway. And the other part of being built on the Georgia 400 right-of-way is that you can also see some of the things that are coming up on the horizon, as well as some of the buildings and things like that. And you'll see a lot more people out walking, too.
And it's also, we should point out that you don't just have to walk. It actually, PATH400 is built for bicycle traffic as well.
That's true. We actually have a couple of neighbors, we have a couple of people who like PATH400 because they can bike to work or bike to MARTA. You can take that bike on MARTA, and a lot of people don't realize that. But you can take it on MARTA, bus, or rail. That's a good point.
Very good point. So where does PATH400, what's the whole network look like for it?
Well, the whole network, it's interesting that you say that because PATH400 is just a part of the regional trail network. And one of the things that I could use to explain it is that if you look at the Beltline as sort of a circle, we are one of those critical spokes that comes out from the Beltline. That means that we reached the Beltline at its northernmost point. If you live on the north side of Atlanta, chances are, and you want to go to the Beltline right now, chances are you are driving your car or maybe finding MARTA, but then having a nice little hike to get to it. With PATH400 being the meeting point at Lindbergh and Garson to the Beltline when it's built, we have this great opportunity to provide sort of this whole connectivity to the Beltline that there isn't any other way to get there. So that's the beautiful thing about PATH400 and the trail network. And then other trails also will intersect with PATH400 at that point near Piedmont and Garson.
Very cool. We also should point out where we're at right now. If you come over to Lenox Road, you will see the big Buckhead wall. That is part of our project, as well as all of the improvements that were done, about 2 years ago?
About 2.5 years ago. We started construction 3.5 years ago with clearing the land and getting easements for some of the properties. And once we started construction, one of the things that we did in working with the Department of Transportation on roads such as Lenox that are state highways is we worked with them so that we could expand the sidewalk, which was previously a little narrow path with a short guardrail, and make it into what you have now, which is a wider path, partitioning you with a taller guardrail against the traffic, as well as some plantings. And then, of course, our signature statement for this part of the path is the Buckhead wall.
Maybe you can see that.
You can't read it, it's kind of tall. And the other thing that's kind of cool about working with DOT, this was one of their first sort of pedestrian projects along a right-of-way, and as we continue, we're off the right-of-way now and on Lenox, we had to do some major upgrades to intersections to make it more walkable and easier for pedestrians or bikers to get across. Because when you think about Lenox Road, there's a lot of traffic still on Lenox, about 6 lanes that you have to travel across. And that, one of the things that we had to do was work with that. And we, by widening the sidewalks, took a foot from each lane, which is a traffic calming measure. We also extended the amount of time the pedestrians have to cross. So generally in some parts of Lenox, it's about 18 seconds. At this part, it's close to 30. So it gives you a lot more time to get across the street before you feel rushed. I've done that with kids for walk to school day and taken little kids across, babies in strollers with their parents, as well as senior citizens, and I've not lost a single one. So I think we have enough time to get across safely.
Well, I will say, before the improvements, I used to have to walk over here to the Prominence and Buckhead building, and it was a little bit like Frogger. It was not, you know, you got the signal and you better haul some butt when you go do it. Now it's actually very nice. Cars stop. It's actually timed. The intersection is very well marked. And people, you know, they see people walking through here, so they're actually, the drivers are actually paying a lot more attention, which is very nice.
Right. And the other nice thing is that we have the traffic islands in the middle, so sometimes if you feel like you see some cars that may be making a right turn and not paying attention, you can kind of gauge that
little
from
refuge
the center.
for you. Okay, so we have just left the PATH400 as far as what we consider phase 1, which is Lenox Road to Old Ivy. We're now walking towards, we're going to be crossing Lenox Road over into Tower Place. And do you want to talk a little bit about
how it goes from here?
Yep.
Yeah. So I first should say there are a couple of access points. We got on at Wayuka, but you can also enter PATH400 from Old Ivy. We cross Old Ivy.
They're building 7 parking spaces there.
And they're building parking spaces. So if you need to, well, you don't want to park in there to go to MARTA, but if you are at Old Ivy or whatever, you're going to come to the same intersection to cross Lenox and go into what we call Tower Place. It's a development which is part of the commercial core. And that means that we're walking sort of on an existing infrastructure. The nice way that we can actually save money as well as create more walkability is by using existing infrastructure and not just always having to build on the right-of-way. So where it's practical and where we have the property owner's cooperation, we actually use the existing walkway. And so after we cross the street here, we'll be in Tower Place proper. And then on the other side of that, we will go back on the other side of Peachtree. On the after Tower Place, we go into, the design goes into a neighborhood and expands PATH400 to include the right-of-way.
And from there, that's we're starting to build the next phase, correct?
Right. So the really cool part is the area that you toured a couple of weekends ago, which is the area down by between Miami Circle and sort of the edge of the Gordon Bynum Bridge. So that area is under construction, and they're starting to clear the land and doing some more geo-studies, but hope to have that finished. It'll probably take another year after they really start digging. So that's an exciting part. And then after that, we have the segment Fit Complete that goes from Miami Circle south to Piedmont Garson, with some parts in between that we're still marking and widening sidewalks, but a lot of that is, it's certainly walkable and easily navigated. In fact, look at our website, look at path400greenway.org. It's to see how it looks and what's happening.
And we even stop to pick up a little litter along the way too. We keep things clean even if it's not ours. So we're approaching where the MARTA station is. Do you want to talk a little bit about, before we get there, about how people can support PATH400?
Yeah, and let me say that. We're walking by Buckhead Church. I attend Buckhead Church occasionally, and I think it's a great congregation to attend online, of course, when the traffic's crazy. But it's also wonderful if you are in the neighborhood and want to walk over. PATH400 takes you right to the front door of your local church, so
or
local community church.
More for me, it also takes you to Margaritas on the border if
That's
you want
true
that.
Too, yeah. Or DSW or Nordstrom Rack or Saks stuff.
You know,
so
all of those are good ones.
Yeah, all of those are good stops along the way. So when we get to the point where we're talking about how do we make PATH400 happen, a lot of that happens because we have great ambassadors, probably like the people who are watching us now or catching it later. And one of the things that they do is help us spread the word about what PATH400 is, how great it'll be to have that connection, not just to the Beltline, to other trails, either for a commute option or outdoor exercise. Health and wellness is so important, and sometimes we don't get out a lot because we don't feel like we want to tackle traffic and roads and crossings. So this makes it easy for a family walk or for an individual who may not get out as much as they'd like to feel like they have a safe walk option. But it's also, of course, that commute option that has become really, really critical, at least in my neighborhood of Buckhead, where they feel like we are landlocked because we can't get to Midtown.
Yeah. There seems to be a smoking hole in the middle of the interstate along the way
all it
somewhere.
Takes is a smoking hole to make people want to look for another option.
Exactly. Funny how that happens that way.
So I appreciate your asking that question, because it is good to know that we have ambassadors out there who are helping spread the word, and it's great to know that we have people who are also writing checks and getting their employers to write checks. We have to raise $5.6 million to finish PATH400, and we'll get some additional funding from T-SPLOST and additional funding from some other sources, because we do a lot of private public sector funding. But $5.6 million has to come from our community and the people who are using PATH400.
So give us money.
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead and send your check. So as we approach MARTA, we're not the only ones who had this idea this morning. There are a few other people with briefcases and suitcases who decided to opt out of traffic and get on PATH400. We saw a guy with a rolling bag earlier, and now we see a gentleman with his briefcase heading off to a meeting in Midtown, probably, that he couldn't get to very easily if he'd gotten his car. I didn't ask him, I just made that up.
Just telling stories, that's fine. So we are going not to go all the way into the station because we want to leave a little mysteries in life for you to discover. But this pedestrian bridge goes over 400. It goes straight into the Buckhead MARTA station. If you go further across, you could actually cross over 400 very safely, easily, and laugh at the people stuck in traffic while you're doing it. Point at them on the bridge, take pictures of them, and you can go over to the other side, go to Maggiano's, go to Alliance Center, Fitz Plaza, Lennox Square, all of those sections over there. So
I put you on North Stratford right by Peachtree. So you just go up North Stratford from there and take a left on Peachtree and get to the retail centers, or take a right and head toward the commercial core.
I want to thank everybody for joining us. If you have any questions, PATH400greenway.org is a website with a lot of resources on it. You can also email us at info@livablebuckhead.org. We'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. And you guys have a great day.